Hi Jeebus, hi. I am back with the 24 books of 2024. Another point horror book. Hopefully, I'm apologising now. Hopefully, the editing won't be as choppy as the one as previously uploaded, The Train, okay? Sometimes I know what I'm saying, but I struggle with words, hey. So, I know, right? So, another point horror by R.L. Stine himself. Oh my god, the R.L. Stine. Hit and run, point horror. This book came out in the early 90s. And it came out in 1992, so an early one. God, I need to get hold of some of these point horror books. I actually enjoyed this one. It was all over the place, but dark. God bless R.L. Stine. Hey, Goosebumps, Point Horror, Fear Street. So the film, I got the best. I think I've mentioned this before, but I got the best chuckle. I saw the film with some of my nephews and nieces. Okay, and the bit at the end where Jack Black's playing R.L. Stine. Okay, he's walking down the corridor, sees that guy walking back at him, and he says, "Oh, hello, what was it, Professor Black? Oh, hello, Professor Stine." I got the best giggle everywhere. Okay. And my nieces were like, "Why?" I goes, "That's R.L. Stine. He created Goosebumps." And they were like, "Wow." They were like, "That's the actual author crossing paths with Jack Black, who played R.L. Stine." Goosebumps actually was a really good film. I enjoyed it because I actually read a lot of the Goosebumps books, being a babysitter, and they were really, really impressive. I thought the film was great, by the way. I really enjoyed it, and I thought the books were great too. So, you know something? I might see if I can get a hold of some of them. I want to see if I can get some Goosebumps reviews, bit of nostalgia going on, not for my childhood, but for my babysitting years. Okay, so let me start with this one, right? Hit and run, right? Eddie, Scott, Wicks, and Cassie, four best friends, go out in the car one night to practice their driving, especially Eddie. But then Eddie has a terrifying accident, and now the four friends share a horrifying secret because Eddie has hit someone and killed him, or has he? Right. It reminds me a lot of I Know What You Did Last Summer, the book by Lois Duncan turned into a film. The book and the film don't really match, but it's that typical kind of situation where they think they've killed someone. They've hit someone, Eddie has, and they think they've killed someone. Actually, the book, I Know What You Did Last Summer, I thought was actually pretty good as well. So, and actually, I thought the film was quite good too. Okay, so this is what happens. So, even starts off though, okay, is this. Right. Cassie Martin hung out with three boys. Cassie had been athletic all her life, playing sports, swimming, bike riding, and hanging out with the boys in her neighbourhood. And when she got to high school, she didn't see any reason to change friends. Right, okay. But Cassie had a crush on one of the three boys she hung out with, Scott Bordering, but it was a secret crush. Scott had no idea. Then Cassie was just a pal. Scott was one of those all around guys who get their pictures in about 20 pages in the yearbook, really good looking in a teddy bear sort of way. Scott was a big blonde jock with brawny shoulders and a broad neck, but also had brains. He was a starter fullback on the football team and an all-state wrestler. He was a class representative in the student government. After school job at his uncle's hardware store, and he managed to maintain a solid B grade. That's quite interesting too, because these friends, okay, is you've got Cassie, who is, you know, kind of atypical, kind of hangs out with the guys. Hey, I get that. All my best mates are guys, okay, so it's just how it is, right? However, you got one of them who is an all-state wrestler, fullback on the football team. So you think it'd be super, super popular, and have like be hanging out with a cheerleader, okay? Because that's how it typically is, you know, the football star and the cheerleader. But no. And then there's Bruce Winkelman, known as Wicks, okay, who is a joker. He's a prankster, okay. He's the kind of guy who, like the class clown. He's that kind of guy, right? And then you've got Eddie, who they call Scaredy Cats. Right, here you go. The only reason kids like to play jokes on Eddie because he was quite quiet and sort of timid and frightened looking. So his name was Eddie Cat. His name was Eddie Cats. And they started calling him Scaredy Cats. So, but Eddie Cat, Scaredy Cats, that's kind of, you know. And yeah, so these four are friends, and you start to kind of wonder why. I mean, the dynamic must be really interesting. But especially for the time period, in the dynamics of school, one would be the jokester, the one that everyone kind of tolerated. One would be the quiet one, okay, and one would be dating the cheerleader. Okay, yeah. So hey, so after another prank, they decide to borrow a car, right, and practice their driving. They've all got driving tests coming up, right? So, God, I need to get on that someday. right. And then as they're driving, Eddie, okay, right, here you go. They're talking about cars they want to do. Definitely a normal day, as you do. Suddenly, the headlights came into a startled expression. He stood staring at them, frozen, his arms at his sides. Eddie cried out, slammed his foot onto the brake. The car squealed as the car began to slide. The casting mouth opened wide in a scream. What happened in slow motion? So that man was wearing a tie, a jacket, and a baseball cap. You saw his wide eyes stare, the expression of horror on his face, so bright, so earthly bright in the glare of the headlights. Then she felt the bump. A surprisingly quiet thud of impact. My expression didn't change. His body flew straight in the air. She felt another bump as the front tyres rolled over the man, and the car finally came to a stop. Right. Okay. So they've killed this man. Eddie was driving. None of them have a full license. They're in trouble. So what do? What do they do? And they decide to do this. They decide to hide the body. Just pretty much the end of the road. No one's going to know. The car belonged to one of the parents, has a dent in it, but they can cover it up quite easily. And they go through his bags, find his name, okay? And, right, Wicks does this, okay? Wicks. This is his idea. This is important, right? We don't have driver licenses. The police will fry our butts. Our lives will be ruined. Everyone know what we did. We could even go to jail or something. What would happen? I guess a fine, maybe a juvenile detention, probably some kind of not work experience, but the kind of thing like volunteer community work kind of thing. But I don't know what would their crime be? Would they go to? I don't think they would go to prison. Right, it'd be their first offence. So Wicks takes control. Wicks, the Joker, this is all his idea, right? I guess this is a hit and run, we could be arrested. No one saw us, Wicks said, slowing even more as they reached town. Darkness was passing on both sides. No one. There was no one around. But we could be arrested, Eddie insisted. We'll be okay. Winks is right, Eddie, Cassie said softly. There were no witnesses. What happened is terrible, but it was an accident. An accident. You have to keep telling yourself that. What was Brand Tickers? That's his name. So Brant Tinkers, as his name, doing there in the middle of the highway anyway, Wiggs asked. It sounded a bit more like himself. He soon turned the car to Market Avenue, still down with Saturday night traffic. He was just standing in the road, Kelly said thoughtfully. And I killed him, Eddie said, shaking his head. So they're racked with guilt, okay? I don't know what to do. The only four people know about it are them. So what do they do about this? So they wrestle with their guilt, some wrestle with others. Eddie was the one driving, and he gets the idea of going back to the scene, trying to see what happened, calling his cousin who works as a coroner, okay? Right. And Cassie's really dealing with the guilt here, okay? What happened, right? Right. Aren't you curious? She demanded. Don't you want to know if the body was found? No, Eddie said. I've been forcing the whole thing out of my mind. At least I've been trying to. I don't want to go back there. I really don't, Cassie. Make me see it all over again and make it fresh again. I won't. So, people are wrestling with the paranoia, and then they start getting the phone calls. They start getting the guilt. They start getting Brant Tinkers coming after them. They haven't found the body. The body was, according to the coroner, was there and then it was gone. So the body's disappeared. There's no investigation. No one's looking for Brant whatsoever. And then Brant seemingly is coming back for them. Is the operator? I have a collect call for you from Brant Tinkers. Will you accept the charges? Cassie swallowed a bubblegum. Her mouth dropped open but no sound came out. Will you accept the charges? The operator repeated. Brand Tickers, what's going on here? Go ahead, please, the operator said, and then clicked off. Cassie heard crackling on the line. Hello? More crackling, then a sound of a gasp, a dry gust of wind. You can't run away. You can't run away. And the line was there, leaving Cassie trembling and cold. So they're paranoid. They're absolutely paranoid. And then pictures start appearing, Polaroids of Brant in the car that killed him. And they think, oh, it was Scott's parents' car, incidentally. Right. So, sitting behind the wheel, his head to his face, the camera, his head turned to face the camera was Brand Tinker's, the corpse staring at the camera. Sitting behind the wheel was Scott's parents' car, so clear, the picture was so clear. So, and then Winks, okay, Winks the Joker, Winks the prankster, Winks whose idea it was to leave him at the side of the road, he's mowed down in a hit and run. He's with Cassie, walking towards Cassie when a car comes out of nowhere, slams into him, and drives off. Winks survives, but the thing is, one thing I actually did like is this book gives the impression that it was all Winks. It was Winks from the start doing this, because he's a prankster, he's a joker, so he'll be the one making all these pranks afterwards, okay? Just kind of mess with everyone, because that's his style. The nice misdirection is that when Winks is mowed down, well, no one would set that up themselves, would they? No one would set themselves up to be hit by a car, unless you're really, really into it, or you're sure you'll survive. And you, trust me, that's trust. So I like the misdirection. When I read this, I don't thought it was Winks, because that's what you would expect. That's the one good thing about R.L. Stine's work. It does really, really keep you guessing. Compared to all the other horror authors, okay, maybe I'm biased, but I think R.L. Stine is special for that, because he created so much. His beautiful, vivid imagination produced so much, and he's so good at misdirection. So, yeah, okay. So Cassie thinks she knows who's doing it, but turns out no, okay. And then, as it all going through it, Cassie does actually pass her driving test. The person who's doing it the entire time was, because Cassie passes the driving test, her and Eddie go for a drive. The car has a blowout, and then in the car is Brand Tinker's in the boot. It was Eddie the entire time. Misdirection, Eddie. Right. I was impressed by that. I did not see it was Eddie. Right. You know, I really should, because on the start of the day, they were always picking on Eddie and always bullying Eddie. So he had enough in the end. Okay. Here you go. I know they call me scaredy cats. I know they all laugh at me, think I'm a chicken, Winks and Scott, and you too, Cassie. Eddie, people only play jokes on people they like, Eddie said. She knew it was lame, and the hatred on Eddie's face, the uncontrollable anger was really terrifying her. That's not true, by the way. If they people who play pranks on people they really like are just dicks, right? So I decided to show you what it's like to be scared, really scared. I worked it out all on my own, my own little practical joke. First, I borrowed a corpse from Jerry the coroner, right? Cassie, Eddie gasped. So Cassie gasped, wait a minute, Eddie. Do you mean we didn't kill this guy? We didn't hit him right that night in your car? You're also stupid. We didn't kill him. He'd been dead for days. He was so stiff he stood up by himself. Oh. Cassie suddenly felt weak. All that guilt she thought, all those nightmares, we all felt so terrible like criminals, and Tinkers had been dead for days. He'd have been dead for days. Right. So with Eddie's cousin Jerry, they set this up between them. Right. Right. I decided to do when I frighten you. I decided to pay you back for the jokes or the laughter, for all the times you frightened me and me feel like a cowardly baby. I got Winks. Scaredy Cat got Winks. I showed him. Now it's your turn, Cassie. But Cassie fights back. Okay. Jerry appears also to save the day. And what happens is, though, is when they go to get Brand Tinkers from the car boot trunk, okay, sorry, he's not there. He is not there. He's disappeared. And further along, Eddie is been arrested for what he did, because he did mow down Winks. Going absolutely paranoid because the body was in the car. But then it turns out that Jerry, probably in revenge for what happened with Eddie, corpse, and stands them outside the house to play one last prank on these guys. Because remember, thanks to them and their actions, his cousin is now in a psychiatric facility. That's one bit of revenge. So, Yeah, but it does actually end though with Winston Frankstar getting the corpse and then propping it up outside his parents' front door and knocking on it. Interesting, interesting. So, interesting book. So actually, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Typical R.S. Stine. It keeps you hanging, keeps you guessing. I mean, I wasn't expecting the guy to actually come back from the dead, but it's a nice good misdirection. It's a hit and run. Point horror by R.S. Stine. Cheers. Thanks for everyone. Bye now.